Well, good afternoon. My name is Joe Rensis, and I'm the Dean of Engineering here at Poly Pomona. And welcome on behalf of the Cal Poly family. I want to welcome you to our 2017 Ganpat and Manju Patel College of Engineering Distinguished Lecture Series. The Distinguished Lecture Series was started by the College of Engineering to broaden the educational experience of Cal Poly Pomona students, faculty, and also staff. We are committed to a comprehensive approach to engineering education. And so, for the past 4 years, we have invited thought leaders to provide the campus community opportunities to learn from a diversity of ideas and innovation. This evening is no different. Before we get started, it is my pleasure to introduce you to someone who passionately supports these ideas, Mr. Ganpat Patel, who graduated from Cal Poly back in 1970 with a degree in electronics engineering. Pat, after graduation, he held a series of jobs supporting military initiatives, but then shifted to the commercial sector before his entrepreneurial spirit took over. He started a power supply design company and grew the company to employ over 2,000 people. After he stepped down as chairman in 2000, Pat changed his focus to higher education. In fact, in his home state of India, Pat founded a private university that now has over 20,000 students. In 2015, he was inducted into the College of Engineering Hall of Fame for his professional accomplishments and contributions to the field of engineering. Ganpat and his wife, generosity allowed us to continue the distinguished lecture series and support so many of our students in the years to come. Now please welcome Pat on stage as he shares some remarks with us. Pat?
Thank you, Joe. Good evening. So tonight we have a very good speaker, so I'm not going to take too much of my time, but I just want to thank everybody at Cal Poly. I talked to our speaker, Ramsey Jay Jr., and I read his book all along, and then I quickly realized that he is truly a motivational speaker. I used to run a company with 2,000 employees, and my way of motivating was different. I used to use things like 2x4s and stuff like that. He's got a little bit more conventional approach, and so we're gonna hear and we're gonna get charged up. And at the end of the session, if you think you don't have enough charge, since I am electrical engineer, I have set up a station outside with 440 volt. They will put a plus on your right ears, minus on your left ear. When you have enough charge, you just raise your right hand. For ladies, you raise the left hand because you get a negative charge. Anyway, so I was going to make a little speech of my own, but I decided that I will leave it for some other time. But then I do want to, for the benefit of the young alumni friends, I want you to know that success is not patented. Nobody has patent on success. And you don't have to be born rich to be rich. Anybody can be successful. I was born in India in a small village with 2 to 3,000, 2,500 people, no running water, no electricity, no toilets. My father was earning $100 a month. He was supporting 30 people. We were 6 brothers, 6 sisters, 2,000 square feet home. My mother managed the whole thing. We had 4 cows, 6 ox, and we did a absolute minimum farming and minimum earning. And my mother managed the whole household with very little money. And then when I started business, people were talking about just in time and zero waste and dock to stock and all of that. Well, my mother, without education, taught me all of that. She was milking the cows. In 15 minutes, that milk was served in the plate. So that was dock to stock. She had nothing left at the end of the day, so there was zero inventory. Nobody ever went hungry, and nobody had too much. So the best management. So today, if somebody were to get a award for being a good manager, good CEO, that would be my mother. And she had no education at all. So IQ has nothing to do with education, but it has everything to do with the common sense. Everything that you have learned here from Cal Poly, if you cannot use your imagination and take it to the next level, it has no use. You got to use your imagination, take those ideas that you have learned to the next level, because the world is changing. World was changing 2,000 years ago. World will be changing 2,000 years from now. And as long as world is changing, new opportunities will always be coming in your way. And with that, I think I was given only 5 minutes, so I better end my speech right here. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's speaker. I know I will. He's a wonderful man. I met him, and I think he is a great speaker. So let's listen to him. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. Some of you know me, I come in the office a little early, and I actually had the pleasure of watching YouTube this morning, and it was very motivational. I'm looking forward to our speaker today. But before we kind of have an introduction there, I just want to kind of do some housekeeping type of things I'd like you to note. Once our speaker has finished, we will have a Q&A session. Again, once our speaker is finished, we'll have a Q&A session. Located on the back table are 3x5 index cards and pens. Again, located on the back table are 3x5 index cards and pens. If you have any questions that you would like to ask the speaker, please write them down on the index card and leave them on the basket located on the table. So now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Clark Rucker from the Boeing Company to the stage. Clark is a 2017 Distinguished Alumnus and graduated from the Cal Poly Pomona with an engineering technology degree. He will introduce our speaker tonight. Clark.
Oh, man. I have been waiting for this day. First off, welcome. Cal Poly students in the house, hands. Oh, yeah. So we got a lot of Broncos present, right? We're not Mustangs in here. We are Broncos in here. Welcome. I I want to tell you that when Dr. Ontiveros contacted me this past summer and said, you know, Clark, we're looking for a speaker for the Ganpat Patel Distinguished Lecture Series, and we need somebody, I kind of got the feeling like she wanted me to talk. And I said, well, are you sure? She said, yeah, we need a speaker who's dynamic, who's energetic, who can do things and say things. And you know, the speakers that we've had in the past, Clark, they're engineers who've been talking about rocket science and this, that, and the other, and great speakers, good stuff, but we want something different this year. I said, well, have I got the guy for you? Let me tell you a little bit about him. Ramsey Jay Jr., in November of 2016, was a man that I met. I met him as he is my fraternity brother, and we crossed together last year. He impressed me then as a man with an innate ability to commingle sentiment with eloquence in his words. You guys get that? I'm trying to be like Ramsey, okay? Roughly 5 months ago, I attended a luncheon where Ramsey delivered the keynote address. His message had many parts, but he followed them succinctly and with a passion that I've rarely seen in other speakers. At the conclusion of his lecture, I found myself, like others, in awe of the message that he had just delivered, and that I could accomplish anything put before me. But enough about that. Let me give you some background on Mr. Jay. Ramsey Jay Jr., a Wall Street-trained financial professional, has more than a decade of global investment management experience, including working in the capacity of director for years at an alternative investment firm. Mr. Jay's expertise includes high-yield bank issues, loans, bank loans, distressed credit, multi-strategy credit, private debt, and private equity. Additionally, he created a lecture series, 21st Century Dynamic Alternative Investment Frameworks and Strategies, that has been delivered at investor conferences across the country, private companies, and academic institutions as well. Ramsey is also a widely recognized expert on leadership development, motivational speaking, and communication, driven by his mission to empower dreamers to become achievers. The title of his recently released book is exactly what I just said. His mission has been the cornerstone of his commitment to serve his community and to inspire those that he meets not only to dream, but to realize their dreams. His message and enriching inspiration has touched many in the community, both students and professionals, and continues to energize them not to give up on themselves and their dreams. He spends his free time speaking to youth at schools, colleges, universities, and organizations like he will tonight here at Cal Poly Pomona. His 3P methodology, possible, probable, and predictable, has provided the pragmatic framework enabling his followers to achieve academic, professional, and civic-centered success. Ramsey was named by Ebony Magazine as one of the top 30 young leaders under 30. In February 2016 was when he received that recognition. He was invited to make an opening remarks at the White House, and I'm sure you'll see a photo because he always loves to show that picture, where President Obama and the First Lady hosted an event honoring Ray Charles. In April 2015, Mr. Jay was a recipient of UCLA's Reardon's Program Inaugural Excellence in Civil Engineering and Leadership Award, recognizing his commitment to serve the community. He also has been appointed as a delegate for the Turkish Cultural Foundation's tour to Istanbul, accepted into the Socrates Society at the Aspen Institute, and named a Coro Executive Fellow, and selected as an International Career Advancement Program Fellow. Ramsey earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in finance from the Craig School of Business at California State University, Fresno, where he was a 5-time all-conference track and field athlete. When you look at him, you can see it. This guy, he has to be a track guy, right? I was once a track guy, not anymore. He was the chief portfolio manager of the Student Investment Fund at the Craig School of Business and the president of the Financial Management Association, and led this chapter of the association to receive distinguished national recognition. Mr. Jay also earned a master's in business administration from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College, where he was a voted speaker of the 105th graduating class. Many people say I guess I didn't prove it tonight, but many people say that I'm a good speaker. To which I always reply, oh, you haven't heard Ramsey yet. Please join me in providing a warm Cal Poly welcome to my friend and colleague, Ramsey Jay, Jr.
Thank you for the kind and gracious introduction. Good evening. For those that don't know, I'm not saying that to myself, so let's try it again. Good evening. We're almost ready. Good evening. It's about 98%, Dean, but we're at 100% at Cal Poly, as I understand. So one more time, good evening. Good evening. I will begin my formal remarks in just a moment, but let me allow me to make sure that the mood and the environment is properly set and established. By that, I'm going to allow this just right now for any of our friends that may be sitting on the perimeters, on the side or in the back. I will give you a 30-second opportunity to move up and be closer to the action, as that would be a good environment for me as your speaker. So that's a very polite way of saying for some of the folks on the side and in the back, come on down. This is an interactive presentation, and your presence up close is encouraged and welcome. And while they're doing that, you can see they just needed to be invited, and look at them come forward. So I want to just applaud them for being gracious for me this evening. I do thank you kindly for the opportunity. I want to set the context before I begin my remarks of three things. Three things. Where we are, what time it is, and what we are here to do before I begin my remarks. Once again, three things important. Where are we? What time is it? And why are we here at this place at this time? 34 degrees north, 117 degrees west. 34 degrees north, 117 degrees west. If you were to enter the coordinates of latitude and longitude in a GPS system, ladies and gentlemen, that X would put you exactly where you are right here, right now. There is no other place in the world that can claim the coordinates 34 degrees north, 117 degrees west, but this Cal Poly Pomona University campus. You are at a divine place at a divine time. That is where we are. What time is it? Allow the record to reflect that today is the second day of the 11th month of the 17th year of the third millennium. This date will never come again. This place is unique in and of itself. There is no other place and there is no other time like there is right now. Allow the record to further reflect. The time is 1710 hours. This moment, this time will never come again. Allow all those that are present here at this distinguished lecture series to, number one, recognize what a place you are at. Number two, recognize what a time it is. And number three, allow me to define why we are here now that we know where we are and what time it is. We are here at the Ganpat and Manju Patel Distinguished Lecture Series. I, as your speaker, humbly stand on a stage that has been occupied by luminaries far greater than I, and their shadows are still tangible as I speak from this podium. Please believe me. The shadows that have been cast by those that have come before me are the shadows that I now will bring forth to you. For those that have spoke before me, we are here now to charge those that will come after me. To the academics that are present, good evening. To the students that are present, good evening. To the administration that is present, good evening. And to the friends and family of Cal Poly Pomona, good evening, and welcome to the Ganpat and Manju Patel Distinguished Lecture Series. There was no other place, there was no other time, but the time that we are gathered here. All those that are gathered and recognize the energy with which your speaker has come to speak with good purpose and good intention, won't you please now properly say, good evening. Good evening. We are now ready to begin the Distinguished Lecture Series. Now, I also want to make sure you know that I don't just come with what I call a stale speech, a stock speech. There's no such thing when I speak. And so I want to make sure you know that I did my diligence because I know who I'm speaking to. Mr. Rucker was kind enough to give me a little bit of a briefing. I went and did my own homework. And I know that I'm speaking to a number of engineers. So if you are an engineer or you're studying engineering or you just kind of think engineering's cool, give me a hand raise real quick. I don't want you to do a quick swivel of your head, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see that we are amongst engineering type folks. So although I am not an engineer, if you wouldn't mind, let me indulge you with 3 quick stories to let you know that I've done my crash course and PhD in engineering just the last couple of weeks. Story number 1, I was writing this up and I said, let me see if it really works with engineers before I begin my remarks. Listen closely. It says, normal people believe that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Engineers believe that if it ain't broke, it doesn't have enough features yet. Am I doing okay? Okay, I'm doing my homework for you now. I got a better one. Husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends, I want to make sure I appeal to all types here. Engineering for couples. Here's one for you. I got this one. I wrote this up. A wife asked her husband, who was a software engineer, could you please go shopping for me? Listen closely. A wife asked her husband, a software engineer, could you please go shopping for me and buy 1 carton of milk, and if they have eggs, get 6. A short time later, husband comes back with 6 cartons of milk. The wife asked him, why the hell did you buy 6 cartons of milk? He replied, they had eggs. Thinking like an engineer. I'm trying to be like an engineer here. One more to let you know I've really gotten into the headspace of my audience, because you got to, rule number 1 when you're speaking, know your audience. So I'm trying to make sure you know I know you here. Here's one for you. There was a man, and he was in a, this one's really good. This one really took me a while to get it right. A man was in a hot air balloon, so he's up in the sky, and he realized after a while that he was lost. So he said, okay, let me reduce the altitude. And when he did, he found a woman down below, and he descended so he was close enough so he could just reach down and yell at her and said, hey, excuse me, can you help me? I promised a friend that I would meet him an hour ago, but I just can't quite figure out where I am. I've gotten lost in the altitude. My instruments aren't working. The woman said, yes, you're in a hot air balloon and you're hovering 30 feet above the ground. You're between 59 and 60 degrees north latitude and between 107 and 108 degrees west longitude. The man in the balloon looked down and said, oh, you must be an engineer. The woman replied, I am. How do you know? The man said, well, everything you told me is technically correct, but I have no idea what to make of the stuff you gave me, and all it did was make me more than an hour late for where I was trying to go. And the woman looked back at him and said, well, it's better than being in management. 3 stories to let you know that I know who I am talking to this evening. So I've done my homework, and just so you know, I know I'm talking to engineers, I know where I am, I know what time it is, and I know what I'm here to do. That stage has now been set for me to begin my remarks. As you can see from the slide on the screen, my mission and objective this evening is actually to give you a thumbnail sketch of what I mean when I talk about empowering dreamers to become achievers. A narrated text that I wrote about a year and a half ago, as Mr. Rucker shared. I'm going to give you just some guts of that, because I think when we talk about where we are, leadership, transformation, engineering, the innovation, technology, I believe this is a powerful time for the opportunity for those that have dreams of significance to be able to activate them. Said another way, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's one thing to tell young people, grown people, mature people, have a dream. I think it is something fundamentally different to be able to empower them to realize that which you tell them they can become. We do a wonderful job of aspiring excellence, inspiring it, but now what about how do you actually make it happen? This is about the how-to. We know what we want to do. How do we do it? Before I begin, I want to make sure you know I make a statement every time I speak, and here is my statement for where we are and why we are gathered. If you would look to the screen, I will read this for you, but read it with me if you wouldn't mind. Statement entered into the record, meaning that long after I'm gone, I hope that these words remain here at this fine institution of engineering at Cal Poly Pomona. Entered into the record, penned today, November 2nd, 2017, a day that we recognize never comes again, nor will this statement. The Ganpat and Manju Patel Distinguished Lecture Series at Cal Poly Pomona School of Engineering is meant to broaden the educational experience of students, faculty, and staff by fostering an environment for thought-provoking discourse. I posit that our society is yearning for progressive and innovative leadership. Thus, the fusion of this form and the empowering dreamers to become achievers methodology, which I subscribe to, have the potential to be catalyzing forces for unity and good on behalf of our collective and interdependent futures. That is the statement with which I have prepared my remarks this evening. I believe that this is a critical time in country and society. And if anyone dare thinks that a room like this can't be positive agents of transformation, let me tell you, you've invited the wrong speaker tonight. Because I do believe that the people in this room have the ability to be what I'm talking about at the bottom, collective forces of unity and good for our interdependent world and nations that we call home. The outline for where we will go tonight. First, let me show you where I started. Hopefully you recognize at least 3 people on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't, let me help you. The man in the middle is the 44th president of the United States. That is President Barack Obama. The woman to his right, if you can see, is actually the former First Lady. That is Michelle Obama. And to her right, wearing the red power tie, that is your speaker this evening at this distinguished lecture series, Ramsey Jay Jr. Now, for those in the back, let me help you out. If you look quite closely, you see how tightly the president is gripping Michelle right there on that rib cage right there. You see that? See, what you don't get to see in a still shot is right before that, I walked in with that red power tie, and the president looked at me and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. That's mine right there, Ramsey Jay. That's my woman." I said, "Now, Mr. President, I'm not here for any of that. I'm here to talk and do my job, but I'm glad you let me know so I can let all the folks at Cal Poly know that that is your woman." I want you to have a good time with my remarks, but also understand the power of this picture, because if you were around like I was back in 2004, the Democratic National Convention, there was a candidate there by the name of John Kerry and John Edwards that were on the Democratic nominee ticket for the presidency. And if you remember, the last night of that campaign stop in the Boston Convention Center, a junior senator from Chicago got up there and gave an address. And if you remember back in 2004, there was a seminal line that he delivered, and that line was, "There are no red states, there are no blue states, there are the United States of America." A line and a phrase that ultimately became the campaign rallying cry that carried that gentleman all the way to the White House. And if you're honest like I was back in that time, the idea, the notion that we would live in a country that in the 21st century would see a man of Kenyan descent, born in Hawaii, be elected to arguably the highest office and most powerful office in all the land, I would have said, that's a nice dream, but that's not going to happen on my watch. Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you as I speak with great intensity about the dreams of possibility, we witness arguably the most impossible, arguably the most improbable ascension to the highest power of the world on our watch, on our time, by a man by the name of Barack Obama, elected to the presidency of the United States. I'm not here to be political. I'm here to suggest the notion of what we can't do, where we can't go, what can't happen. I believe we lit and witnessed a time that suggests whatever you think you can do, let's go ahead and aim a little bit higher. And when I tell you I stood right where I stood at that place, at that time, with that man in that office, the power of what I believe is possible still is on my spirit to this evening, which is why you may, thank you. Which is why I want to start my address, and I will end my address with this same photo with the story about how that dream for me of speaking at the White House in front of that man came to pass. Because it's one thing to get up here and show you, oh, that's amazing, but we want to know how. Because if you can turn the how into your how, then your version of that story can be true too. I believe that this evening. So how are we going to make it happen? 4 points for you, and then I'll be out of your way. Number one, I want to talk about leadership and a new paradigm for you. 4 points there I have. I'm going to talk about the 3 Ps, possible, probable, and predictable. I'm going to talk about role modeling. If you understand, I'm saying role modeling. Notice I'm not saying role model. I'm saying role modeling. I'll get into depth, but I'm talking about role modeling as a verb. It is an action. It is an active process. Role model is somebody whose poster I put on my wall and I look at it. Wow, that's a role. I'm going to model it. That's not how you become that person. It's an active engagement process. I want to talk about that. And then lastly, I want to leave you as engineers with a model of practical application for the disciplines that I'll lay out throughout this lecture. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes. Good evening. Good evening. Let us begin. What word do you see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen? Very right. Victory. Keep looking at the screen. What do you see in that circle? Does anybody see another word in addition to the word victory? Now, be honest with me. How many people saw both words before I highlighted the word defeat in the middle? Put your hands up. Look around the room. Look around the room. If you did not see both words until I circled them, put your hand up. Look around the room. A number of people saw it. Another of people did not see it. So why on this lecture series would I start with an illustration like this? For the following point. You have so much potential right in front of you. Why would we not want to maximize the internal potential of the individual before we start looking at all the externalities? We want to continue to focus on externalities, but why not maximize everything within you to get everything out of everything you see and maximize that with the externalities? That equals a leverageable exponential return and improvement. Said another way, I like to leave you with empowerment isms. These are in my book. I say you fundamentally change your life when you are willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable and expand your customary way of thinking. Looking at that picture and only wanting to see victory, now you will see that picture. You will never not see that picture and not see both victory and defeat. I want you to look at my remarks and my frameworks with an expansion of eyesight of seeing something that you may not have ever seen before. If you start learning to think that way tonight, it will carry over tomorrow, next week, and next year. And engineers, who better to learn how to think outside the box progressively than the folks gathered in this room this evening? Empowerment isms, I'll sprinkle those in throughout my remarks for you. Let's get into leadership, though. 4 points I said they are. Number one, I believe leadership is going where you need to go without being asked to go there. Key word is without being asked to go there. That's what I believe a leader of transformation does. Number two, leadership is about delivering yourself in service, not saying, what can you do to serve me? Number three, leadership is about looking to your left and to your right and leveraging your peers' assets across disciplines to make monumental change happen now. And number four, perhaps most importantly, leadership is about doing what you do in such a way that you leave an indelible footprint, meaning that is incapable of being erased or eroded over time, allowing those that come after you to exceed your accomplishments as great as they may be. Perhaps no more important than number four. As great as everybody in this room is, true leaders of this era are those that say, I am going to do the best I can because I know by definition I'll be able to help someone coming after me exceed my great work, because you're only great because of who came before you and left a footprint for you to follow. May I show you an illustration of such a leader? I'm asking, may I? Well, I'm going to show you anyway. But thank you for giving me permission. Allow me to give you just a couple of points about this leader I want to profile. This person immigrated to the United States at age 19. Did not graduate from the college where he started, but he did graduate. He is now a successful entrepreneur after supporting the military. You want to talk about leadership? You want to talk about somebody delivering themselves in service? Someone going where he needed to go without being asked? Someone who leveraged his peers' assets to make things happen? And most importantly, someone who was making sure that those coming after him exceed his accomplishments? Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, let me introduce you to Ganpat Patel, the founder of this lecture series that we are at tonight. And I want to say thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity to allow those coming after you, because of your selfless service, to be able to exceed your greatest accomplishments. And he corrected me tonight that university is no longer at 10,000. It is now today at 20,000 students in India at the university that he helped found, educating literally a new generation. You should applaud this man's work. Example of leadership, because I don't just want to talk about things, and I want to make sure you have tangible examples of who and what and how. There's one right in the front row of what I'm talking about. Empowermentism says people regularly defy the expectation that family, history, and race and socioeconomic status place on them. You heard about where this man started in his opening remarks tonight. So my question tonight is, why can't you do it too? Why can't you do it too? And I'll say it even more succinctly with a slide. Instead of asking why, start asking yourself, why not you? Why not you from Cal Poly be next? Don't ask why. Ask why not? That's the spirit of the heart of the transformational leader that I've come to speak to this evening. Why not you? And why not here? And why not now? 3 P's for you: possible, probable, and predictable. Now, sustained success doesn't happen by accident. You need a repeatable methodology that you can deploy and gives you a high degree of confidence in a positive outcome. There's no need in telling you to go out and try to do all these things if you don't have a process that you can follow that allows you to not only be successful, but also course correct along the way. For me, I suggest the 3 P's is the methodology that can help you do that. Let's look at number 1. First of all, you've got to believe, that is why it is underlined, that your dream is possible. Cal Poly Pomona, let me tell you right now, if you were sitting here tonight and said, well, I just don't know, that's not going to happen. Let me help you out right now. Well, it's not going to happen. Now, guaranteed belief is not arrogance. That's confidence in one's ability to be their best self. Because belief is the first prism in order to be successful. You've got to believe that you can be. Despite where you may have started in life, I believe Mr. Patel said, I still believe I can be successful, even though I may have started over here. His mind said, I can still get over there. And then he manufactured the work product to make it happen. So if he would have started in India with a mindset that says, no one like me from where I'm from can get where I want to go, he would not be here, nor would any of you. Believing is the first step. So, did I always talk like this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me take you back down memory row, if I may. And that young man right there, that's him in the 5th grade. That picture is at my mom and dad's house in Ventura, California. I said, Mom, you can rotate that picture to the back room now. It doesn't have to be the first picture. But ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Ventura to visit my mom and dad, that picture will be the first picture you see when you walk into our living room. And I said, Mom, I've grown up a little bit. What about some of the other 25 years of photographs? No, that's the one. When you really came into your own. I'm in 5th grade. But what am I wearing in 5th grade? I'm wearing a suit and a tie with stripes in the 5th grade. And let me tell you, no one told me to wear that. I said, this is how I want to go out for the dream that I believe I might be able to be, and listen to the key word, someday. Didn't know what day. Didn't know how, but I used to wear that outfit for fun and said, someday. I'm an only child, but that dream of someday was born through a magazine, as Mr. Rucker said, Ebony magazine. Before I was in that magazine, that is where my dreams came from. My mom subscribed to Ebony magazine, and every month it came, I used to meet that mailman at the mailbox, and I used to take that thing, and my mom never saw it after that day. And every month it came, ladies and gentlemen, I used to cut pictures out of people who were doing things amazing in this world, and I said, someday. And I built my own library of all of these successful people in medicine and lawyers and politicians, businessmen, businesswomen, and all I said is someday. Why am I telling you that? In my neighborhood, I didn't grow up around access and exposure to the type of people that now do the things that I do on a regular basis, but I still said, I believe it is possible someday. And I used to use that magazine, $3.99 a month. Was my ticket to dreams. If you fast forward, as Mr. Rucker said, some 25 years after I wore that suit, that magazine came out, and that is the magazine, and that is the cover. And in the upper right-hand corner in that magazine, that is me wearing the same attire at the age of 29 that I started wearing when I was in the 5th grade, featured, as Mr. Rucker said, as one of the top 30 young leaders in the country. Now, I don't say that to brag or to boast. I say that to categorically say on the record, if I would have started there in the 5th grade and said, nobody like me, nobody where I'm from, will ever be where I ended up becoming, the picture that I show you on the right hand of that screen would not be able to be shown tonight. So I leave it like this. How many people know a young person under the age of 5? Grandchild, neighbor, someone that you know under 5? Put your hand up. Tell me if I'm not being true when I say someone under the age of 5, if you have bunk beds, play this out. They'll jump off that bunk bed, fly so they think, fall flat on their face, get up and do it again because they believe it is possible for them to fly. How ironic is it as we mature in life, the practical ability to fly becomes more practical, yet our ability to dream becomes less practical. But you go home to that 5th grader, you couldn't tell me I couldn't wear a suit and tie and be whoever I wanted to be when I was young. Now that I'm older, with resources, education, and training, the dreams are even bigger now. So why am I saying that? You should have this picture of yourself next to whatever picture you are today, and allow that zealous dreamer of that youth, let that person out every now and then, now that you're grown. At an institution like Cal Poly, imagine what is possible if the zealousness dreams of youth incubated at a place with such resources innovation as Cal Poly and engineering. I believe the world will change because of youthful dreamers incubating their place here with resources to change the world. But you've got to believe that it is possible. First P. Let's back it up, though. Be bold in your vision, what you believe is possible. Do not water down your vision to acquiesce to popular opinion. I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to fit in with everybody. I'm not here to run with the crowd. You tell me, when's the last person that changed the world because they did what everybody else was doing? That person does not exist. The people who change the world don't acquiesce to popular opinion. Students, a message for you. If everybody's going left, look over there, but every now and then go right. If everybody's going right, look over there to make sure you're not missing it, but make sure you also look at what's going left. Do not acquiesce to popular opinion. Be bold in your vision and what you believe is possible, and it just might be what makes you who you are uniquely born to be. Be bold in your vision. Idea for you, example. This person grew up passionate about math and science. This person now has a 3+ decade career of leadership at the world's largest publicly traded international oil and gas company. This person founded the Young Leaders in Engineering Scholarship Program here at Cal Poly that gives out $7,500 in scholarships every single year. And I believe this person said, I believe it's possible, and has gone out and made that happen. And that is one of your very own. That is Lynn Lackenmeyer, who now is the Vice President of Safety, Security, Health, and Environment at ExxonMobil. She is one of your own. Examples of people who are making something possible. A woman, 35 years at ExxonMobil, one of the highest ranking, came from right where you sit today. Do not tell me what is not possible. You're now looking at yet another illustration of someone who sat where you sit and now has become one of the most powerful female executives at the largest publicly traded international oil company in the world. She's not here, but her legacy is felt through the Young Leaders Program she starts here and provides scholarship support to people to be able to exceed her accomplishments, not just be her accomplishments. I want to make sure you have dimensional looks at what I talk about, another tangible example of one of your own. Empowerment isn't to back that up. Let me tell you something I truly believe. Guess what quitting is? It is a habit. It is easier the more you do it. Quitting is a habit. It gets easier the more you do it. Do not get in the business of quitting something small. You'll start quitting something big and won't know the difference. Quitting is a habit. It is easier the more that you do it. Second P, probable, working extraordinarily hard to make it probable. As I was introduced, I will tell you that if you're not hearing no while you're pursuing your dream, you are aiming too low. Get in the business of hearing no, because that means your aim is high. If you're not hearing no, hear your speaker tell you, you are aiming fundamentally, categorically too low. Let me give you my no sequence so you know I'm going to be transparent. Anybody know which one I am on the screen? Engineers, let me help somebody. There, that's the one with the circle. That's me. That is the 4x100 relay team in Ventura County where I grew up, the fastest group of 7- and 8-year-olds at that time in county history. And as you see, we are ordered left to right. The guy circled is the anchor. I'm number 4, which means every time I got the baton, I was always in first. They said, Ramsey, all you got to do is hold on to it and don't trip, and you'll get all the awards and accolades. And I did. All I had to do was hold on to the baton and cross, and everybody gave me all of the accolades because the finisher always gets the spoils. And I was last, so I always got to be first on the podium, and people thought I was great. I said, look how easy it is. These guys always gave me a lead. All I had to do was finish. I started running for fun. And because of my work ethic and running, I ended up going on and running in college, and I actually did graduate from another Cal State campus, Cal State University, Fresno, is where I earned my undergraduate degree in business and finance and was a student athlete there. But let me tell you what happened there. Dreams of grandeur. The dream you saw with me in that picture at Ebony Magazine at 30 years old was me at Morgan Stanley, the Wall Street office, when I was featured as one of the 30 under 30. But it doesn't tell you, how did I get from that picture of a 5-year-old or 5th grader to that person that was at Morgan Stanley? I left a little bit out. Here's where that fork in the road moment happens. Follow the story. I was at Fresno State. At that time, it was not viewed as a core school, meaning that big financial firms wouldn't recruit there. When I was there, they recruited at 4 schools, 2 up north, 2 down south. You probably can infer which they were. Stanford and Berkeley up north, USC and UCLA down south. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm right in the middle of California at Fresno State. Engineers, I got a problem. So how do I go somewhere with a dream that doesn't come to me? Because my dream didn't come to Fresno State. Wall Street didn't come there. So how do I get there? Question for everybody in this room. If your dream doesn't come to you, are you going to be saying, well, woe is me? Or are you going to say, well, where is it? And let me go to it. Your speaker wasn't a rocket scientist. I just said, well, then where is it? If it's not coming here, where are they going? So, well, they'll be up at Stanford. I said, well, good. I'll be going up to Stanford. So your speaker got out of class, drove 3 hours north to Stanford. They were having a financial Wall Street recruiting fair, and I met the recruiter in the parking lot. And she said, gosh, how are you liking your time here? I said, ma'am, it is brand new to me. She said, what do you mean? I said, it's like it's brand new. Everything about it is like I love the campus. It's like it's brand new to me. She says, are you a student here? I said, yes, ma'am. I am a student and I am here. She said, wait. I said, whoa, what? She said, well, no, you're playing with my question. I'm not playing with your question. If you want a different answer, then you ask me a different, but I'm answering the question. So you finally said, well, no, are you a student that's enrolled here? I said, I can do this all day. Yes, ma'am. I am a student and I am enrolled and I am here. She said, well, look, things get ready to start. I got to make sure I understand what you're all about. I said, well, then what do you really want to know? Distinguished lecture series audience, hear this point of my story, because this question could have changed my trajectory and it could change yours or redirect yours. She finally then looked me dead in the eye. She says, well, wait a minute. If you don't go to school here, you're not enrolled here. She said, then why are you here? Listen to me. We all could hear that question. One person hears it and says, oh, I don't belong here. I should turn around and go back to Fresno where I'm come from and stay there. That's how somebody could hear that question. Someone else hears that question and says, oh, I'm glad you asked why I'm here. Allow me to inform you why I'm here. Because I read your flyer and it actually says on the bottom, any student interested in working at these firms should attend. I said, ma'am, I am a student. Ma'am, I was the first student here, clearly interested. She says, oh, I guess you're right. I said, there's nothing wrong about it. Unless you're going to replant 500 flyers and put the word Stanford in between student and me, I'm here. I'm right. She said, well, I guess you're right. Yeah. She said, well, I guess we can interview. I said, ma'am, you can hire me. I got a good GPA. I drove up here, helped you set this thing up. I'm passionate. I'm the guy. She said, well, we can't do that. We got to go through the process and protocol. I said, well, let's do that. So she says this, Cal Poly. She says, well, at the end of the interview, you guys heard I ended up getting on the Wall Street. So at the end of the interview, what do you think she said? You are hired or not hired? She said, you are not hired. How many people believe in this thing called life that says you can do everything right, you still won't always get what you want when you want it, but do you give up or do you say, well, wait a minute, then what do I need to do to make it a yes? So I said, that's okay, you told me no. Hear me when I say this. One of my keys to success under that second P of working to make a dream probable, every time you get told no, you demand feedback. You take that feedback and put that into a bank, and that bank becomes the bank of a deposit, which turns into an eventual yes. Every no with feedback is a deposit into the bank of an eventual yes. In the interest of time, your speaker, eloquent, fifth grader, Wall Street, went through that exercise 54 times. I was rejected. At 55, the people said, you're here still? He said, well, I guess we'll give you a shot. I said, sometimes all you get and sometimes all you need is one shot. And hear me when I say, the man or the woman who fought and scrapes and went through 54 rejections to get his one shot, trust me, you don't want to line up next to that guy when money's on the line. Because he'll come in early, he'll stay late, and he'll come back tomorrow, and he'll do it again. My key to success was not taking no personal. I said aim high. That's what I expect to hear no. Tell me why. What do I have to do to get better? And ultimately, that became my yes. How did I get on Wall Street? It didn't come to me. I wasn't born for it. It wasn't born in me. I went and got it and fought for it and ultimately earned my seat at the table. Working to make a dream become probable means learn how to deal with adversity and not just accept it, but catapult and be better for it. If you cannot do that, your dream will not come true. But if you can, your dream has more than a reasonable opportunity to be probable, meaning more likely, not guaranteed. We're getting there, though. Empowermentism, to close that frame up, being first, Cal Poly, is no longer sufficient. I'm going to say it again and again. Get away from this idea that, oh, I'm the first. We are not going to be satisfied with being the first in the 21st century anymore. That was good at a point in time. Oh, I'm first in my family. I applaud that, but that's not good enough anymore. The narrative going forward is the following. You must finish if you're first. It does you no good to be first and not finish. Finish that which you start and do it with a purpose that says you are going to be next. Someone who comes first and finishes with a destination of what I will do next will never, ever be the last. Today's narrative for young people in this room who may be first, I'm happy for you. Make sure you finish this journey at Cal Poly with the vision to be the next. You will then not ever have to worry about being the last, because you will cast a shadow and a legacy that those coming after you will not help but be able to be successful because of what you did. Today's narrative is be first, be a finisher, and make sure you always have your eye on what you can do next. That will ensure your campaign is underwritten without the ability to be the last. Last framework of an illustration, because I want examples for everything I talk about. This person immigrated to the U.S. from a communist state. That state was Ethiopia at the time. Sacrificed mightily, he'll tell you, during his collegiate studies. Took risk and failed before entrepreneurial success. And today he's building a 300-bed, state-of-the-art hospital in his homeland of Ethiopia. Mel Maluku Negisi, another one of your Cal Poly Pomona Broncos. I want you to see example after example after example of people who have sat in this room, who believed in dreams that were possible, worked hard in the face of adversity to make them probable, and became leaders who are now leaving a runway to allow those coming after them to exceed their great accomplishments. 3 different examples, 3 different individuals. What do they have in common? They all started at this place and went on to that place, but never forgot where they came from. Another one of your Hall of Fame, Cal Poly Pomona Engineering alum. You may applaud for him. I see someone wants to. Getting ready to close. Stay with me because I want questions. Authentic dream empowerment requires goals to have 2 M's. We are not in the business of having hollow goals. Every goal must have an first M, a metric, and a milestone. Quantify it with a deadline. Quantify it with a deadline. That also helps you know when you're off track how to course correct it. Don't just set it out there 3 years from now. That's fine. What are the milestones to meet between here and there, and how many do we need to meet by when? Every goal we set, every goal I teach in my book has an M and an M. How many and when? How many and when? People get tired of me saying it, but you know what? You're going to be held accountable of when and how many. It's a good tool to use, not a bad tool. 2 M's. Every no you receive with feedback is a deposit into the bank of an eventual yes. Illustration for you. Visual learners, there it is. Lecturers, I told you. Now you internalize it. Coming home with role modeling, because I believe this. Selecting a role model is much more about understanding how they became who they are than who they are. Cal Poly Pomona, are you studying the how or are you studying the who? Everybody loves to study somebody's performance. Everybody loves to read my bio and say, oh, he's amazing, but you're not understanding how it happened if you're marveling at what I did. Study how I did it. The story I told you about Fresno is the inside story of how it happened. Does me no good to tell you I went from Fresno State to Wall Street without telling you how. Now you have the blueprint. Let me give you an illustration of a role model that is dear to me that some of you may not know, but I believe these are the types of role models we need to be looking at more often than those who are celebrated and commercialized. Nothing against our celebrity friends. I do believe real role modeling is about people who you don't see on TV all the time, but have stories that you can actually use to become who you should become. Quick example for you. This man was in 1957, one of the Little Rock Nine. For those that don't know, helped desegregate segregated schools in the South. All white schools for the first time allowed African-American students to go to school there. The man I'm speaking about now was one of the original 9 in 1957 that helped to make schools what they are today. They just celebrated the 60th anniversary of that landmark day in September, just last month. There is the headline of the newspaper back in that day. We must be able to revisit our past without editing so we know how to do better in the future. That's an unedited look at the path that we've come from some 60 years ago. This is an actual picture of that man at 15 years old standing in front of those that were keeping him from going to get his education on that first day of school. That is a real picture of the 15-year-old that I'm talking about back in 1957. Went on now as a successful person to serve as assistant dean at UCLA School of Social Welfare and a successful 30-year psychological practice. Before I show you who this is, let me tell you this. I got a chance to sit down and interview this role model one-on-one. And we're going to release that interview, and I believe everybody in this room and everybody in this video watching the replay should watch this because of what he says at this point of the interview. I asked him a question. I said, sir, for those that may not ever get a chance to be back in that time, tell me a lesson that we can all use as a role modeling tool for our future today. He said, you know, when I went there, this is what happened. They called me every name in the book every day I walked in there. He said, whenever I had a book, they would take it from me and they would rip the pages to ensure I couldn't learn. They would soak my locker with liquids to make sure I was miserable at the school. And every day I would get beat. And guess what? I used to say, I don't know if I can make it. I said to this man, I said, did you ever feel like quitting? Did you ever feel like giving up? He said, every day I thought about giving up, which begged the next question. Why didn't you give up? Or, translation, what sustains you? He said, at the age of 15, hear me when I say, he said, I thought about how I would answer that question today in 1957 would be replayed today in 2017. And I didn't want you to get up on a stage like this at Cal Poly Pomona and say that I quit because it was hard, because it would suggest that those coming after me that it would be okay for them to quit too. So I didn't do it for me, but even at 15, this role model said, I'm doing it for those coming after me. And I never want the history book to say I was one of the 9 that quit the race, as difficult as it was. The man I speak about was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian award given by a sitting president. President Bill Clinton bestowed that on the man I speak of. His name is Dr. Terrence Roberts. And he is a living role model from another sister Cal State campus as an undergraduate. Went on to earn a master's degree and a PhD. And I want you to remember from where the journey started. I show you this as a role modeling technique to suggest to anybody under the sound of my voice who dare has limitation on what they think they can do, where they think they can go, who they think they can become. A man in 1957 penetrated schools that said they weren't for him, went on to earn a PhD, served as an assistant dean, and now I say to you, is as much a role model as anybody who we may see on television movies nowadays, but a story we have may forgotten. Let it be a modeling technique for us going forward. Lastly, as I close, the humanization of the time value of money model, because I want to give you a practical tool. Effective leadership and empowerment programs should consider the model I'm going to show you to systematically to improve the quadruplicate, meaning the 4 areas of self, family, school, and community at the highest level possible. I've written this model to transform the financial equation that I'm trained in, known as the time value of money, which basically says $1 today is more valuable in the future because of the power of compounding over time, allows that dollar to grow exponentially based on the rate of return you earn over the number of compounding periods. Just want to make sure you know I did earn my MBA. So let's look at the equation quickly. I will ask you, what is the most powerful element of this equation, all things being equal? You would suggest it is usually the exponential multiplier, the end variable there, because it allows whatever's inside that to be multiplied at a factor of 2, 3, or 4 times, whatever the compounding period is. Don't get lost in the math. Understand the power of what I'm saying. It's incremental investments over time that yields large returns in the future, which is why they always say start saving early with a little bit. It does a lot better than waiting later and save with a lot. It's because of the exponential multiplier of that end variable in the financial equation. That's what allows amplified returns to happen over time. What if you take that equation with money and apply it to human behavior, human self-empowerment? Is it possible? I believe it is. I did it for you. Let me show you. So if you take that, I will say that the present value is now the sum total of everything that you've done versus money today. The rate of return is the rate you implement the right processes to improve yourself. And N is the number of periods you can repeat the process over time, will then give you a future value, which will be the sum total of everything that you will do, decisions you will make, and the people you will touch. We have now taken a financial equation and made it a human empowerment equation, and I believe incremental investments in the right processes for yourself lead to amplified returns for you to be able to amplify returns for others. You want to see how it works? I did a model for you because I want you to have a takeaway. So here is my last slide I give you as I take away. The 5 by 4 by 5 humanization of the time value of money model. 5 is the number that we will utilize in the model, so that is your number, 5, doing things in 5s, and we're going to do them in 4 time periods, 5 ways. One more time, doing something with the number 5 in 4 different periods, 5 ways. The time periods are daily, weekly, monthly, and annually. I'm going to give you 5 things I think you should do with the number 5 in each of those boxes to maximize your human potential and leadership ability. I won't go through them all. I've highlighted one in each square to give you a feel, and I'm happy to share more in the reception. But I believe here they are, my suggested model for you, the 5 by 4 by 5 empowerment model, utilizing the time value of money as my equation that this is underwritten by. I say this in square number 1. Before you get up and start your day, reach for the cell phone, the email, family and kids, 5 minutes writing affirmations to yourself about what are you going to be about today? How is your day going to go? 5 minutes in quiet solitude, thinking, clarifying, praying, meditating, making sure your mind is right for the day that awaits you. How's it going to go? How's the meeting going to go? What are you going to say? How's the speech going to go? How are you going to greet people? Getting that in your mind before the day comes to you allows you to go to the day with a sense of clarity and perspective that will be hard to take off track, but hard to get on track if you start seeing the phone ringing all the time. Something I suggest you do 5 times over the week, I think you should listen to 5 international media sites. If you're looking at Bloomberg, how about BBC, international news? What's going on around the world? Don't just flip on CNN, ABC, Fox News. Those are fine. 5 international perspectives gives you a global sense of what's happening in our world, which is, ladies and gentlemen, bigger than us in the U.S., FYI. Trying to help somebody. 5 things I think you should do monthly. This one always makes people cringe. I believe you should take 5 8-hour periods in a 30-day month and disconnect from connectivity for an 8-hour block without exception. If you go out with the family, leave the cell phone in the car for 8 hours. Trust me, it'll be there when you get back, as will all the message. What am I saying? We cannot afford in this day of transformation to be present but absent because you're worried about what's buzzing in your hip. When you come to the lecture, be present. Don't be present and absent because you're trying to do 2 things at once, meaning you're not going to manufacture success in either one of them. I believe you should pick 5 8-hour blocks in your month and say, as a family, as a student, as a team, we're disconnecting to be present with each other. Last one I suggest, 5 things I think you should do annually. The 5 by 2:22 principle, based on 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, the 22nd verse, which talks about this principle of touching 5 people. And get 5 people in your mind today that if I come back in November of 2018, you can fundamentally say that these 5 people I have personally invested in, and I know their 2018 is going to be better because I made it my business in 2017 to make their 5 2018s better. You cannot be all things to all people, but I believe if you have 5 people in your mind right now and you leave here today and saying, you, and you are my 5, you can make their life better and also make sure you have a systematic way to tell others who will ask for your time respectfully, I cannot help you this year because I'm committed to those 5, but next year you'll be one of my 5. Allows you to manage your ability to manage other people's ability to manage you. And I will go through some of these others later, but this is a systematic model. And why do I think it's powerful? Because 5 minutes in affirmations may give you the vision that you need to write that book that now becomes an empowerment tool for young people and grown people all around the world, as it did for me. That was started with 5 minutes every morning, which led to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes in a week, 200 minutes in a month, 2,400 minutes in a year. Next thing you know, I had a book. Incremental investments of time, exponential outsized returns. Lastly, as I close now, preparing for the predictable opportunity, I said I'd end with the White House. I don't want to cheat you, so here we go. Engineering math majors, quickly, this is my first business card. It was made in 2005. What year? Everybody's not with me. What year? First business card, good. I went to the White House in what year? 2016. What year did I go to the White House? What year was the card made? You're with me. There's the photograph, and there I am actually taking the podium from Cappy McGarr, the executive producer of all the White House shows under the Obama administration. And as Cappy McGarr handed me the microphone, and I'm getting ready to address the crowd there at the president's reception there for that concert we were doing to honor the legacy of the late, great Ray Charles. Math for you. What year was that card made? Back to Dartmouth, where I got my MBA, I went down to the business center and had to make me that card. And I went in there and I told the woman, I want you to make me a business card, and I want it to look just like this. And it says on the upper right-hand corner that I'm a professional speaker and a what? Ladies and gentlemen, in 2005, how many books had I authored in 2005? Say it with pride. How many books? That's right. How many professional speeches had I given in 2005? That's right. 0 and 0. But guess what it says? I am what I am. And I walked out of the print shop. This is a true story. I'm trying to find my prop. I may not have it. There it is. So this book was not written. I want to make sure you know that. This book was written in 2016, and I had that card made what year? Follow the math. So I walk out of the print shop in 2005, and a woman walking in as I'm walking out, a true story, and she says, oh, Ramsey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I said, ma'am, I'm doing great. She says, oh, we should keep in touch. I said, we should. She said, do you have a card? I said, ma'am, I have 250 of them. How many would you like? I reached in there and gave her my card. She said, oh, Ramsey, I didn't know you were a professional speaker. I said, and author. Don't you cheat me. She says, oh, I have an event coming up. I need a speaker there. I said, oh, I'll be there. I write my own stuff because I'm an author. What time? She said, 3 o'clock. I showed up at 2:30. I gave a speech that day. 40, 50 people were there. I said, man, that was outstanding, young man. Do you have a card? I said, I have 249, but I'm going to be big in this business, so you better get me now. You never get me ever. I want you to enjoy the humor in the story. I also want you to understand the message of the story of preparing for a predictable opportunity to make a dream become a reality. Why do I say that? In 2005, I used to speak like I was at that White House and there was nobody in that house but me in the bathroom mirror. But I spoke with the same passion and fervor that I speak tonight back in 2005. Day in and day out, week in and week out, not knowing when, not knowing how, not knowing who would call me to the White House, but I was going to be prepared. If they called me, I would say, I am ready. Not, I'm going to get ready. Follow the story. What year did the White House call? 2016, which means there was an 11-year gap that I used to give speeches without cameras, without audiences, without all the fanfare and hoopla, waiting for that opportunity. Fast forward in the moment of time, the White House calls and said, we'd like someone to bring remarks to talk about the philanthropic legacy of Ray Charles. I said, I am prepared. True story, I go to the White House. Cappy McGarr is giving me the microphone. He says, guess what? You're not going to get to rehearse because we got Usher Raymond, Yolanda Adams, Debbie Lovato. I said, well, who are these people? They're the stars of the show, Ramsey. You're just going to give remarks, so you're not going to get to rehearse. I says, okay, well, then tell me what I have to do. He said, well, they're going to have a prompter running, and the prompter is going to have your lines on it, and it's going to have a red dot that tells you when to read them. Make sure you read them on pace because this show is taped to the minute to make sure it's ready for television and to manage the president's schedule. So whatever you do, make sure you stay on script and stay on message and stay on the prompter. I said, I got it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, I had never been on a stage like that at the White House. There's nothing that simulates the power of the presidency, let me tell you, as one who's been there. And I had two choices when that prompter started running. I could have said, well, let's try to use this thing. Or I said, do what you have been prepared to do. And if you go on YouTube and watch it, you will see there is clearly one speaker of the three who is not using a prompter. And it was not President Obama, and it was not Cappy McGarr, which leaves you to say it must have been me. And when that red light went on, I had a split second to say, do you want to do what they think they should tell you to do, even though that's not what you were born to do and have been prepared to do? Or do you do what you've been born to do naturally so it's fluid? And I chose do what I do naturally. I've been doing it for 11 years. I'm ready for the moment. And that red light went on, and ladies and gentlemen, I said something kind of like this. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to celebrate the life and legacy of Mr. Ray Charles. We want to thank the Smithsonian. We want to thank President Obama. We want to thank the First Lady. And ladies and gentlemen, in the legacy of Mr. Ray Charles, if he was here tonight, he would say like he did in Diet Pepsi with that commercial with the raisins, you got the right one, baby. And everybody enjoyed my remarks, gave me great compliments and accolades after. And here I am to tell you, there is no way that I could have done that day, at that time, without rehearsal, if I hadn't been preparing some decade before for my one moment on one stage with arguably the most powerful man in the world watching in the wings. Did I have a dream that was possible? I believed it. Did I work extraordinarily hard to make it probable? I did. And was I prepared, not knowing when, not knowing how, not knowing who, for my moment, just a moment, that forever will live? I was. Don't miss your opportunity because you weren't prepared when it passed you by. Prepare in faith, knowing it will come, so you're able to execute. Last story I leave you with. Why do I do what I do with such passion? I argue this is probably why many of you will do what you do with such passion. I leave you with the quintessential motivator translation, the ideal model template to keep you motivated when you don't feel like going on. I take you back to Mary Lee Barrett, my grandmother who was promoted in heaven several years ago, no longer with me. Didn't have a chance to sit at a lecture like this, a campus like this, receive an education like this, because of Jim Crow era of the South that governed the law of the land that said because of the color of skin, someone like her could not receive an education. Yet here I am, a generation and a half later as her oldest grandson, and look at now where I stand, look at where I have stood. My grandmother didn't graduate from high school, but when I graduated from Ventura High School as her oldest grandson, guess who flew from Atlanta, Georgia to Ventura, California to hear her grandson's name called? Mary Lee Barrett. When I graduated from Fresno State, guess who flew from Atlanta to Fresno in 108-degree weather and said, I'm not missing it for anything to watch her oldest grandson take the podium and receive his college diploma? Mary Lee Barrett. And when I graduated from Dartmouth, the Tuck School of Business, at that time, the #1 ranked business school in the country, as the first African-American to be elected speaker of the graduating class in 105 years, guess who said, get out of my way, I'm here to watch my grandson speak today? None other than Mary Lee Barrett. And sitting next to her in that audience that day was a 12-year-old boy, and that 12-year-old boy 2 years ago had his name called as a graduate of Dartmouth as an undergrad. Why do I say what I'm saying as I close? I'm just the relay guy. I'm the guy who was given the baton because of who came before me, with a job to make sure I don't drop the baton because of who's coming after me, like that 12-year-old boy. My job was just run that race and don't you quit because of who came before you, because also that's going to tie the legacy of someone coming after you. I was just the relay guy, the guy in the middle. So my motivation tonight, and I hope your motivation for you tonight, let's not forget who came before us. Let us not forget who's coming after us. And let us not forget our job in the middle is to run this race because of who ran before us and who comes after us. I close as I began. The Ganpat and Manju Patel Distinguished Lecture Series at Cal Poly Pomona School of Engineering is meant to broaden the educational experience of students, faculty, and staff by fostering an environment for thought-provoking discourse. I posit that our society is yearning for progressive and innovative leadership, thus the fusion of this form and the empowering dreamers to become achievers methodology, which I subscribe to, have the potential to be catalyzing forces for unity and good on our behalf, on our collective interdependent futures. It has been an honor and a privilege to share a stage that is bigger than me on behalf of those coming after me because of those who came before me. Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramsey.
Yes, sir.
It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
As I said, you can talk, right? Ramsey, we've got some questions, and I know that there were probably some questions that were submitted in the back. What we did, though, was we pre-prepared a couple questions for you that we'd like to ask you, and have you address to the audience. So first question, can you give an example of something that you did that made you uncomfortable when you were a college student, but it was worthwhile?
Great question. So the question was something that I did that made me uncomfortable, and just so everybody knows, I have not received these questions in advance. I'm hearing them right now as you are live right now, but this story fits in here beautifully. I'm actually going to go back to graduate school, which is a little bit older than college, but a story that I think relates. They had sign-up week for clubs like they probably do here on campus. They have different clubs by affinity group, course of study, you name it, there's a club for it. I went to that club sign-up week, And can anybody in this room guess what was the first club I signed up for based on what you have learned tonight or what you may infer about me? What club do you think I signed up first? Toastmasters, I heard. What else? Public speaking, what else? That's not it, but what else do you think? No other guesses? Shy group. Finance, what else? President's Club? No. Actually, the first club I joined, in the spirit of made me uncomfortable, the first club I joined was the Asia Business Club. And Cal Poly, they looked at me and said, you're not Asian. I said, I've been looking at myself for a few years now. I know what I am, I know what I'm not. But I joined the Asia Business Club, and I joined the Asia Business Club for a couple of reasons. Number one, anybody who appreciates that one of the greatest growth engines in the world was, at that time when I was in grad school, was Asia. So if you didn't have an appreciation of the global economy and arguably the most important engine of the economy at that time, what kind of a 21st century finance professional will you be without an appreciation for arguably the most powerful growth engine in the economy at the time, which was the continent of Asia, specifically China. So I said, well, I got to learn how that happens. So what better way than to join the Asia Business Club, which was made up of students from Asia who came to the United States to earn their MBA. So at the first club meeting, this is a true story, it was a room a little bit smaller than this, and of course I tapped in the back, tried to make sure I wasn't seen, wasn't spotted, and the president of the club said, oh my goodness, we have an expert here amongst us that's going to teach us the art of networking because this guy just knows how to go out and make friends and relationships. And I'm like, man, I knew I joined the right club, I can't wait to meet this guy. And sure enough, everybody's head starts pivoting to the back, and they pivot to the point where there's nowhere else to look, so I'm looking, and everybody's looking, and I'm looking back, everybody's looking at me. And I said, well, Ramsey Jay is here. He's going to give us a workshop on networking and relationship building. And I said, I have never done it, but I'll do it right now for you, no problem. The first workshop I gave on networking and relationship building was for the Asia Business Club. It went over extremely well for that group. It was then asked to be delivered at all of the undergraduate affinity groups on the Dartmouth College campus. And that was my first official workshop before I became an official speaker. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, joining a business club that some would say wasn't for me, but just as I told you about that thing at Fresno State, you know what the Asia Business Club actually is about? Any student interested in affairs affecting business on the continent of Asia. It was not an exclusive club, it's actually an inclusive club. How many people didn't believe that? I actually found out that it was for everybody who had an interest in that. It was not excluding anyone. All were encouraged and welcome.
We've got one more, and since you've already discussed the role modeling,
Yes.
what were some of your what-if fears when you were first, what were some of your what-if fears when you first started working after college?
What if fears? I would say for me, I had not ever really worked in that type of a Wall Street corporate culture, corporate environment before, so I didn't know a lot of the rules of the game. Those are things you kind of find out when you actually get inside the door. I always tell people it's easy to politic on the outside, what you would do inside, but it's different once you're inside, and sometimes you can't learn it till you're in it. And so there were a lot of things I didn't know when I walked in there. So one of the true stories I like to say is, well, when a firm says we have an open door policy, I actually believe that they meant that. Now, you don't know that maybe that's not what they mean until you go in there, right? So here I am, the new guy, and one of the young analysts, and some of the senior guys, managing partners and whatnot, had their doors open myself, open door policy. So I walked right by the executive assistant, executive secretary, and you would have thought I committed a crime. You can't do that. I said, well, it says open door policy. I read the manual, open door policy. The door's open, it's open. And I will tell you, in this case, this is not always the case, but in this case, ignorance was an asset about not knowing what I shouldn't do. And I walked in some of the senior guys' office, and I sat down like I was sitting down talking to my best friend. And I think these guys thought I was crazy, because like, does this guy know how this works? And I'm like, that policy says open door policies, flat organization. I want to talk to you. I'm a new hire. I'm Ramsey Jay. I'm an analyst sitting in cubicle 222. And literally, I built relationships with senior mentors and sponsors because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I would say this for a couple of reasons, especially if there was a student that I think asked that. I don't know if that student's here, but I'm going to say it for a student who might not be here but needs to hear that. Do not let what you don't know inhibit what you go after and do. Make them tell you you can't do that and say, I understand. But if I would have played that card, I may not have made the relationships that became extremely valuable in my career at such an early age. I didn't know open door policy meant it's actually kind of open. I thought it meant it was open. And because I operated that way, it was actually something that they appreciated about me. They didn't think I was trying to take advantage because it was done out of genuine interest of wanting to know, how do I become a senior partner at this firm? What better way than to walk in and ask the guy who became one? So I did. And so it was a little bit uncomfortable, I will say that, but it actually turned out to be one of the great discomforts. I learned to be very comfortable. I will reach my hand out to any man or woman and say, how you doing? My name's Ramsey Jay. Good to meet you. And I'm not afraid to say that now, but I had to learn how to do that on the job. Sure. Any questions? You want to take any questions from the floor, or is that, you let me know? Okay. Great. And I was going to let Clark know, anybody else know, I'm not here to make you get it, but for those who are interested, we have a few of these outside that I'll sign and sell for anyone who wants them. Don't have to, but if you do want that, that's for me. And let me just close by saying again, thank you, first of all, Dean, for the opportunity. Thank you to the Patel family for the platform that you've erected to allow someone like me to come after you and help propel your legacy forward. My applause is not really for me, but really my applause is to all of you for spending your evening with us. I hope that you've been enriched. I hope you've been encouraged. I hope you've been empowered. The best way you can say thank you to me is if you heard something that you feel is resonant in you, I bet there's somebody who's not here that you need to be a messenger for them. Take a piece of this home and share it with someone who's not here. That's empowerment. That's leadership. That's transformation. Good evening.
Well, Ramsey, thank you very much. I wish when I was a student I had such a motivational speaker. I'd like to kind of close here. Again, I want to thank you, Ramsey, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. And we welcome everybody.